Alright, I've seen a lot of people talking about buck stitching on social media lately, and I wanted to make a quick little video on how to do traditional buck stitching, some of the little tips that might help you out to get your buck stitch to lay down properly each time you decide to buck stitch a project. So thanks for tuning in, thanks for finding the channel. If you're returning, thanks for returning, and I'll get on with my little tips and tricks video. So I usually like to go about 3/16 of an inch in with my buck stitching. So I'm going to set my dividers up just a hair over 3/16 of an inch, and I got a little leather strap here that we're going to practice on today. So I'm going to take and make my edge mark where my buck stitch is going to lay in, and then I'm going to take a CS Osborne 1/8 inch lacing chisel. So it's 1/8 of an inch chisel with a 1/8 inch gap. I'm going to be using 1/8 inch lace. If you're going to be using 3/16 inch lace, get you one that's 3/16 chisels with a 3/16 gap. That's the rule of thumb I always follow. Now you want to make sure whenever you're punching your lace chisel that you're holding it straight up and down as vertical as possible. And then so I don't damage my self-healing mat, I put a piece of leather down, scrap leather. So just take it through to where it just barely goes through. If you're having trouble pulling it out, take you a piece of beeswax and just put you a little bit of beeswax on your lacing chisel. And then put it in the last one that went, and then punch through just till you pop out the back side of the leather. And again, go in the last hole with your first prong and just keep that up until you work you a spot as far as you're going to be lacing. Till you get you a nice set of lacing holes made there. Now buck stitching is when you have your holes going in the same direction. There's some people that have been using the lacing prongs that are bent on a 45-degree angle. If I can get this one out, where it makes the holes at an angle like this, to where it makes the holes at an angle. Let me get on camera here. To where it makes the holes at an angle, and then they'll just whip stitch back and forth. That's not a buck stitch, that's a whip stitch. So we're going to be talking about buck stitching. Alright, let me get the camera readjusted here and get it in my stitching pony, and then we will buck stitch this little short section. Alright, so we're going to be using just some real leather calf lace. Like I said, 1/8 inch lace. I'm going to be using a lacing needle. So we're going to open it up. Now it's got two little prongs, and I always like to take the prongs and put them through the flesh side of the lace, so the green side is facing out. And then we will take a pair of pliers, just help those little prongs that's inside there grab a hold of the lace. Alright, so now we're going to feed it through with the flesh side up, green side up, flesh side down, through our first hole. We're going to pour us out a good little bit of lace, and then we're going to take and flip it to where the flesh side is up and the green side's down, going back to the front side of our leather. If you're having trouble feeding it through, get your lace and chisel and just open up the hole a little bit. You can use a regular stitch and chisel, or you can use a lacing fid to do this. Alright, and we're going to pull through. So now when we pull through, you can pull it all the way through tight, or you can just leave your little loop, and once you get some, then you can tighten it up. We're just going to pull this little loop right there. Alright, and now it come back through the hole with the flesh side up. We're going to flip our needle to where the green side is up, going back through the hole. And this is going to stay the same throughout. When you go through to the back side, it should be green side up. And when you come back through, the green side should be down and the flesh side sticking up. I'm going to pull back, leave it just a little loop. And you want to make sure your lace doesn't get twisted, so pull it straight, slide your hand down, come back. So we are flesh side up, coming to the front side. We want green side up on our lace, going through the back to the back. Alright, once you get your little section stitched up, now we're going to take, pull that first loop out, push in with our finger and pull. Then we're going to pull to the back side. What happens is, to get a traditional buck stitch, to get that beautiful diamond shape, that leather twists in and lays back down. So we're going to pull, just work it through like that. Push with your finger to help it in so you don't snap your lace pulling too hard. If you pull it to where you just got a loop of just an inch or so, you can make sure that you haven't twisted your lace and make sure it's coming through each side the right way. And that way, on the front side and on the back side of your project, when you pull your buck stitch and tight, will always be the green side showing, and you won't be showing the flesh side of the lace. Alright, that's a good enough section done for this little demo. Alright, and whenever it starts to get tight right there, just take your finger and push and pull at the same time. You can do this with a single layer of leather for just the decorative edge work, or you can do multiple layers of leather. But if you're buck stitching and you want it to actually hold multiple layers together, I highly suggest kangaroo leather and gluing your edges. A lot of times if I'm going to be doing something that's going to be multiple layers, I'll actually come in 1/4 of an inch. That way I can put a stitch line at 1/8 of an inch. Or space it out a little bit more if you want. And then the last step to really get that to lay down and make beautiful diamonds is we will take and set it back on our bench and put a piece of leather over top of it and tap it down. So now we're back looking down at the bench. We've done laced our lace. And if you want to tie it off, you can take and feed it back through to lock it down. We're just going to pop that off because we're just doing a little demo here. Alright, now we will take a piece of leather and lay over top of it so we don't get hammer marks all over our leather. Oh, I'm not even... Now you got those beautiful diamonds that buck stitching gives. And you don't wind up with, like I was talking about, the whip stitch that some people do. I'm really not a big fan of. So this is the whip stitch method. Trying to stay on camera here. Where you use one of the chisels that's on a 45-degree angle. You can see there how that lays. It's not nearly as good looking as the actual buck stitch. You get those nice pretty diamonds with the actual buck stitch. Or if you use the 45-degree angle chisels or a single chisel and just cut it at 45, you get that kind of off-sided square look instead of the actual nice diamond. Alright, so I hope that little video helped out with any questions you might have about buck stitching and the difference between buck stitching and the whip stitch that the 45-degree slant stitching chisels leave. I know the focus was being a little rough with me on my camera, but here's the finished product, a little demo we done. So you can see the nice diamonds versus the 45 whip stitch right there, and on the back side you have your grain side showing. So on a wallet or something like that, you'll have your grain side showing on both sides. You won't have that ugly flesh side of your lace showing on the back side of your work. And also your main amount of strength is on the grain side of the lace. So by doing a traditional buck stitch, your most wear resistant edge of the leather is always going to be to the outside edge of the project, so it will always wear better and wear longer. So if you liked the video, please feel free to give me a like, subscribe, all that good jazz. Thanks for finding my channel. If you've watched this far, thank you very much, and I will try to put out some more little tips and tricks videos of lacing and different stitching methods and stuff like that with hand stitching. Thank you for watching and have a wonderful day.